My name is Amanda Walker. I'm 36 years old. I've hosted countless birthday celebrations through the years, but never before had I shut the door on my own parents as they left. This one was meant to be uncomplicated. Balloons attached to the gate pillars, a slightly lopsided cardboard pirate vessel we'd constructed together in the garage, chocolate cake softening a bit under the summer warmth, 10-year-olds dashing through the backyard shouting about hidden gold and mysterious charts as if the world remained gentle. Nathan had been marking the days for months. He's 10 now, still tender-hearted, still trusts that grown-ups keep their promises, still guards his imagination like something precious rather than something to outgrow. The week leading up to the party, we carefully singed the edges of the invitations together to give them the appearance of old treasure maps. He handled them with such caution, as though haste might shatter the enchantment. I wanted him to feel truly cherished, secure, noticed. That sense of safety lasted precisely 4 minutes after my brother showed up. Mark has always possessed a talent for reshaping any space to revolve around him. Talk slows when he enters. People shift their stance unconsciously. He didn't even glance at the pirate ship as he crossed the lawn, simply slapped my shoulder like I was hired help. Trailing him was Melissa, dressed as if heading to an upscale rooftop gathering rather than a kids' event. Sunglasses still in place, phone already raised. And then Tyler, 13, already tall, his tone practiced in cutting remarks. He surveyed the backyard once and declared, loudly enough for all to hear, "Is this meant for preschoolers or something?" A few children laughed, the uneasy sort, the kind offered when they fear becoming the next victim. Nathan didn't laugh. He stood in the middle of the grass, clutching the small treasure map he'd sketched himself. He glanced toward me, puzzled, as if perhaps he'd overlooked some unspoken rule. I went over, attempted to steer things elsewhere, grinned too widely. Melissa swept past without a word. Tyler scoffed at the pirate hats and stated he wasn't putting on that garbage. Mark shrugged and remarked, "You know, teenagers. I should have drawn the line right then. But I didn't. I convinced myself it would blow over. That Nathan was tough. That I was overreacting. The term my mother favors whenever I refuse to endure more. It didn't blow over. Tyler seized control of the treasure hunt. Yelled solutions before others could guess. Told Nathan his riddles were idiotic. Labeled him a little kid in front of the whole group. At one stage, he scaled the fence, snatched Nathan's pirate hat, and flung it onto the garage roof. "Real pirates don't cry," he sneered. Nathan didn't cry. Not in that moment. He held it in until nobody was looking. I discovered him behind the shed, rubbing his eyes with his sleeve as if he didn't want to inconvenience anyone. When he noticed me, he asked softly, "Did I mess up somehow?" That broke me. I returned to the yard and announced it was time for cake. Melissa took that as her signal to begin live streaming. My parents remained seated at the patio table, sipping lemonade as though everything was ordinary. I stood in the kitchen doorway as guests moved inside, and then I spoke. "The celebration is finished. Everyone has to go." They chuckled at first. My mom actually offered that thin, tolerant smile she uses when she believes I'm being irrational. Mark glared as if I'd personally offended him. Melissa appeared insulted, as though I'd violated some social code. I offered no explanation. I simply said, "You're not welcome here if making my son feel small is your amusement." Then I turned to my parents. I waited. My dad blinked as if he'd been distracted. My mom angled her head and said, "You always turn everything into being about you." So I held the door open. No shouting, no drama, just a clear exit. They departed grumbling. My parents glanced back once, as if anticipating I'd call them back. I didn't. At 9:36 p.m., my phone vibrated. "Mom, you're cut off from this family." I stared at the words for a full minute. Then I replied, "Good. Then you're cut off from the family company." And now let's discuss the money you still owe me. The quiet that followed was instant and absolute. The following morning brought no apology. No missed calls. No remorse-filled voicemail. Not even one of my mother's indirect emoji responses. Just silence, the sort my family employs while waiting for me to fold. I brewed coffee and sat at the kitchen table while Nathan played in the living room. He wore a fresh pirate hat we'd bought from the museum shop after the party fallout. A gentle replacement, as if we were attempting to cover a wound without naming its source. He twirled in place, whispering about sea beasts and secret lands, still grasping for happiness with open arms. And I decided, never again. Not only emotionally. Financially as well. My parents owed me $38,000. I'd lent it during the pandemic when their plumbing company was collapsing. My dad had described it as short-term support. My mom swore it would be repaid by year's end. That was 2 years earlier. Since then, they'd purchased a new vehicle, booked an Alaska cruise, covered Tyler's expensive private soccer program, the one he was removed from for disrespecting the coach. But my funds? Seemingly erased from memory. So I quit prompting them. Instead, I began acting. First, I restricted access to 2 accounts where I held signing rights, the Joint Emergency Business Fund and the Online Operations account. Both were registered under my name because my parents never mastered QuickBooks. I didn't empty them. I simply secured them. Then I phoned our accountant, Roger. I'm withdrawing from the company, I told him, effective now. There was a silence. Then he sighed and said, truthfully, I've been expecting this. He emailed my parents an official notice that same afternoon. Transfer of liabilities, operational separation, everything. Neat, professional, irreversible. I also reached out to our primary supplier, the one who'd offered favorable credit terms based solely on my record of timely payments. I informed them I was stepping away and that any future deals should be reassessed without my involvement. They weren't pleased, but they got it. I'd been the mediator, the interpreter, the one who turned disorder into order. At 2 p.m., my dad texted, "Call me. We need to discuss this. You're making an error." I left it unread. Instead, I took Nathan to the Science Museum. We stood beneath the complete T-Rex skeleton for 10 silent minutes. Then we rode the earthquake simulator twice because Nathan said it felt like making the ground dance on purpose. I got him a stuffed triceratops and ice cream before supper. When we returned home, I had 5 missed calls. 3 from Mark, 2 from my dad. Melissa had left a voicemail. I erased it midway. At 9:01 p.m., predictably, my mom texted, "You're being cruel. We raised you better." Something inside me finally released. Not rage, not grief, just certainty. I responded, "No. You raised me to prioritize everyone else's ease over my child's respect. You taught me to stay silent while others escaped consequences. That stops today. I want my $38,000 returned. If it doesn't arrive, I pursue legal action." No reply came that night. But the next morning, at 10:46 a.m., my phone notified me. Transfer started, $13,800. Far from the total, barely a fraction. Accompanied by one sentence, "We hope this resolves matters." I looked at the screen, unsurprised, merely let down. They weren't remorseful. They were frightened. Because what they'd truly forfeited wasn't only my money. It was their protection. I was the one who handled neglected messages. Pursued clients they'd alienated. Maintained supplier ties. Kept the finances accurate despite their confusion. Without me, they weren't admired. They were vulnerable. By week's end, the problems became obvious. A supplier contacted me personally. Greg from Midstate Plumbing Supplies. even though I'd distanced myself days earlier. Payments were late. Messages ignored. Calls unanswered. "Are you still the point person?" he asked. "No," I replied. "Reach out to my dad." A hesitation. "That's what I feared," he admitted. 2 days on, a restaurant group we'd served for 5 years terminated the agreement. No notice. Just a formal cancellation citing missed visits and lack of response. I forwarded it to my dad. He still hadn't configured the email. My mom messaged, "Do you honestly believe undermining us helps?" I didn't answer. Because I hadn't undermined anything. I'd simply ceased propping up the disorder. That evening, Melissa left another voicemail. I listened this time, parked in the car after groceries. She labeled me selfish, spiteful, unbalanced. Insisted Tyler was only teasing. That Nathan was overly delicate. That perhaps I should reconsider my parenting if a pirate-themed party could upset him so deeply. Then her tone lowered. "This will impact your parents more than you realize," she warned. "You can't recover from this sort of disloyalty." As though I'd been the disloyal one. The company deteriorated quickly afterward. Customers withdrew. Debts mounted. Past staff began raising concerns. Screenshots from an office worker revealed my dad writing bills by hand again. My mom phoning to inquire how to restore the website. Then appeared the local newspaper item. A brief report, tucked away but damaging. The school district had ended their contract after no response during a major leak. The board member referenced poor organization and inability to meet basic service standards. I read it twice. Not for confirmation. But because I knew how deeply it would wound my father. The man who defined himself by reliability. 2 days later, my mom appeared at my doorstep. Unannounced. Simply pressed the bell as if she still belonged. She seemed diminished. Not weak. Unsteady. "We've had a difficult few weeks," she said. "We returned part of what we owed. I don't see what else you expect." I paused before replying. Inside, Nathan was balancing his pirate hat on the sofa. I posed one question. "Do you recall what Tyler said to Nathan at the party?" She offered no response. After a beat, she said, "You're carrying this too far. He's only a child." Same justification. Higher price. I shut the door. Later that night, Mark rang. He clarified he was speaking as Tyler's dad, not my brother. Tyler had been referred to the school counselor for ridiculing another student at recess. When the principal asked where he'd picked it up, Tyler replied, "It's how Grandpa speaks when he wants attention." Mark fell silent for a long while. Then he admitted he should have intervened at the party. That he regretted it. And he shared something I hadn't known. Last year, my dad had told him the company was struggling and insisted they'd already repaid me. Mark had given them $20,000. No documents, only faith. "They'd used both of us as ATMs," Mark said, "and painted you as unreasonable for objecting." 2 days later, an envelope arrived for Nathan. A letter of apology from Tyler. Nathan read it once and tucked it in his drawer. That night, my mom phoned. I let it ring. I texted, "Speak with Mark first, then we'll speak." For once, I wasn't pursuing answers. I was letting them arrive on their own. Mark phoned me the following afternoon. His voice carried a new calm. Clearer. Free of the automatic defense he'd always shown for our parents. "They didn't deny it," he reported. Dad paced. Mom tried to change the subject. But when I mentioned the $20,000, the mood shifted. He recounted my father calling me envious. Unstable. Claiming I was exaggerating. As usual. Mark refused to engage. He told them they could keep the truck, but he demanded every dollar returned. "I no longer trust either of you," he stated, and left. That marked the true collapse. Customers canceled without explanation. Former workers shared observations. Not maliciously. Simply bewildered. The enterprise that once seemed invincible began coming apart from years of inattention. My dad mailed me a letter. Actual paper. He urged me to halt. Claimed I was ruining all he'd created. Warned I'd live to regret it. I actually laughed while reading. Because I'd finally grasped what he never did. I wasn't dismantling the legacy. I'd been the one sustaining it. A week passed, then my phone alerted. "Mom, we're putting the business up for sale." They contacted Mark first. He declined to attend. Then they rang me. I didn't pick up. Instead, I sent a photo. Nathan, seated cross-legged on the living room rug, holding Tyler's apology note. His pirate hat askew. A small, genuine smile. Beneath it, I wrote one sentence: "He's all right now." That's what counts. 3 days on, a check came. $38,000 precisely. Included was a note in my mother's neat script: "This is the final thing we'll ever owe you. We're sorry." I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure. The silence afterward wasn't void, that it was room to breathe. Nathan spent that afternoon in the backyard, assembling a new pirate vessel from leftover lumber and cardboard. When I asked its name, he answered without pause. "The tougher one," he declared. That evening, Mark arrived at my door with 2 coffees. He passed me another note from Tyler, briefer. Gentler. A sketch tucked inside. 2 stick-figure pirates. Captain Nathan and First Mate Tyler. "I understand now," Mark said. "You didn't break the family. You just stopped carrying it by yourself." That weekend, Nathan and Tyler played together for more than an hour. No spectators. No harshness. Just children sorting things out. Tyler handed Nathan another drawing. A pirate ship labeled Second Chances. Our parents sold the company soon after and retired sooner than intended. I still don't speak with them. But I rest easier now. Because stepping away didn't make me the antagonist. It revealed who chose to follow.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.